Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I'm having technical difficulties tonight with my equipment. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm using my cell phone tonight instead of my tablet. For some reason, my Wi-Fi is down at my house. I live way out in the country, and we got satellite Wi-Fi, and for some reason tonight it's not working. So I'm using my cell phone and my data. So my cell phone, for some reason, the past couple of days has been giving me problems also. So if it cuts off in the middle, I'll do my best to get started back up. But I've got an older cell phone, and it's been giving me problems. So just bear with me through the technical difficulties if I have any. But anyway, tonight I wanted to do a little piece on about flywheels, about different sizes, different weights, with fins, without fins, different diameters, just to kind of give you an idea of why some flywheels are preferred for some engines over the others. As far as stocks and modifieds. But just wanted to kind of. Sorry, I'm kind of scatterbrained right now. I'm doing a couple things here at one time, trying to get my Wi-Fi to work again. But anyway, I guess I'll just start off with, your basic stock engines. A lot of flywheel debates go on with the stock type engines. Heavy flywheel, light flywheel, this, that, and the other. We've done a lot of research on that. I've done a lot of testing on, different flywheel weights. One of the things that a lot of people talk about with the stock engines, with flywheels, is you want the heaviest flywheel you can get. You want what's called inertia. The flywheel stores energy, keeps the engine running, this, that, and the other. But one thing I found with the on stock engine, when I say stock, I'm talking AKRA, NKA style engines, your pro stocks, unrestricted and plate engines, is with a heavy flywheel, true it does, hold inertia to when you back off the accelerator, go in the corner, or you go into the corner wide open, that it keeps the engine wound up. And that's true to a certain point. But the biggest thing you need to look at with flywheel weights on a stock engine, from my experience and my testing, is the recovery time. I know most of y'all out there, probably all of y'all at one time or another has been to one of these big national races like the Thanksgiving Thunder. The Batesfield race. But I'm talking primarily on the bigger tracks, like Thanksgiving Thunder or the Insane race, places like that with larger tracks, big momentum tracks. You rarely in those races get by yourself. Usually you're running in some type of pack. You're with somebody. You're having to pass or being passed or whatever. But the recovery time on a flywheel that I was talking about, recovery rate, that's hard to say, is when your engine's at max RPMs, you go in the corner and you're bump drafting. You bump someone coming out the corner, down the straightaway, or you're trying to pass someone. Y'all kind of get together. The engine, whether you have to back off the accelerator or the engine slows because of contact, the recovery time is how quick the engine loses power and gets back up to it. That's why you need to balance, the weight of the flywheel with a heavy flywheel keeps inertia. A light flywheel accelerates quicker. You got to find that happy medium. And if you've got a flywheel that's really heavy, you're going to keep inertia. But if you have to back off the accelerator, or you get loose going in the corner, or you bump somebody, the engine's going to lose a few RPMs, and a heavier flywheel is going to take longer to recover down the straightaways versus one that's a few pounds lighter. You kind of get into that area on the stock engine where you can have a flywheel that's too light. And from all of my testing, you want something in the area of around 3.5 to maybe 4 pounds. That'll give you enough weight to trap inertia, but have good recovery if you need it. Plus, it will accelerate a little better than 5.5 or 6 pound flywheel. that's one of the things a lot of people overlook when they get into this flywheel thing. You need all the inertia you can get. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Once it gets going, it's hard to stop. True. But there are many, many times on a racetrack in 20, 30, or 10 laps, whatever, that you're not around something or having to back off or, trail brake, or, bump drafting. When that happens, the engine loses power, or loses RPM, not loses power, and how quick it gets back up. That's one thing we focus on, is the recovery time of the flywheel. This is a flywheel I used in one of my other videos here, showing the numbers on it. This is our 6619. This is, the flywheel is approved for AKRA, NKA, WKA, USKRA, Mars. All these series, allow you to run this flywheel. And it's got that recovery rate to inertia ratio that you need. I mean, it's light enough to accelerate good. It stores inertia, and it will recover very well. That's something that it's hard to see that on dynos, especially inertia type dynos. It's got those big wheels because those are hard to slow down and speed up. On a water brake, which is what I have, you can see the rate, the speed of the pull. I've had flywheels on there like some of the old steel ones, the VSP flywheels that we had on the water brake, and they would make around the same horsepower. But how quick it got there, and then backing off and doing other pulls and stuff like that, or slowing the dyno down and speeding it up, because I can do that with mine. I can run the dyno up to 6500 and slow it down with the water, and then let it go and do recovery rates and stuff like that. And the heavy flywheels, they just don't recover. And that's a big thing in this money racing, series racing, or tight, what I call tight track racing. Where you're around people all the time, bumping and stuff like that, trail braking. That recovery rate is big. But to get into more about the size and shapes and all the flywheels that help engines, stock engines, this is going to be pretty much it. You're going to want around 3.5 to 4 pounds on a stock engine, because they don't have the mid-range and top-end power needed to keep an engine going if you have a really light flywheel on it. This is one of our lightest flywheels here. In fact, I think this is the lightest. This is 1.7 pounds. Less than half the weight of this one. This one will accelerate, unlike anything you've ever seen. This one will accelerate very, very fast. But the problem with running something like this on a stalker is, the continuous power curve. It's very limited. Once you get past 6,000, 6,500, the power, starts to fall off. And, some engines, according to the way they're built, they may hold power a lot longer, but they're not going to be making a ton of power past 7,000. And, the engine's the torque curve starting to go down on it, and you have no stored inertia. So it's just, these light flywheels won't help engines on top end keep going. They'll accelerate really fast, but you'll see a little bit of top end power in most cases go away with a stalker on these. These are made for higher RPM, higher horsepower style, modified type engine, gas or methanol, doesn't matter. This flywheel is designed, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got 4 holes around that it will take the plastic fan to go on top of this, and then bolt a starter cup to it or a starter nut, whichever, to run, like with gasoline engines. But believe it or not, I got a ton of engines out there running on gasoline just like this, no fan. These ribs here, they'll pull enough air to keep the engine cool if everything is jetted and timed right. Now with methanol, I would never even think about running a fan on it. That's, when you put fans and stuff on it, you get into what's called wind drag, air drag. These fans, the flywheel, has 3 purposes. It holds the magnet to fire the coil. The fins on it move air to keep the engine cool, and it also aids in balancing a little bit. You know, it absorbs harmonics on the outside of the flywheel. But you know, these fins here, if you can get away with it, like on modified engines, you know, it's best not to run fins. That's a lot less drag on the flywheel because those fins are moving that air, and that air is pulling back on the flywheel and it's actually trying to slow it down. But when you get into modified engines, these lighter flywheels like this, because the modified engine will continue to make power in a much higher RPM curve, you know, you want to get as light a flywheel as you want. Like I say, this is the lightest one we make right here. This is, you know, 1.7 that works off of the standard ignition. This is our 66 O2 Ultralight. You know, we sell a lot of these flywheels, a lot of them out there, and I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people that run these on stock engines. They put a fan on it. You know, a lot of tracks don't check that kind of stuff. These smaller tracks, you know, these are not legal in AKRA or NKA, just so y'all know that. This is the only one. The 6619 is the only flywheel we make that's legal for AKRA, NKA, you know, or the other series as of now. You know, that might change, but I don't know. We're always working on stuff, always. But you know, when you get into the modified stuff, that's where the variety of flywheels we make, you know, really comes in handy. I mean, we make, a lot of people don't know we make so many flywheels. I mean, we got several designs of flywheels. My favorite flywheel to run on modifieds is probably one like this. This is what's called our 3-horse diameter flywheel. You notice it's a lot smaller. A lot smaller than the Keith, all of our flywheels are zero balanced, with or without fins. That's what I was just fixing to get into. You know, with these 3-horse flywheels, you know, this is one of our adjustable hub flywheels. This is one that you can, well, let me go ahead and answer what you got there. This is the drag race version of it right here. No fins. Adjustable center hub. This flywheel weighs, you know, right at 3 pounds, like 2.8, you know, right at 3 pounds, but most of the weight is centered right around the crankshaft. But this flywheel is zero balanced, just like all of them are. But these 3-horse diameter flywheels like this, they offer kind of the best of both worlds. So you get a lighter flywheel, but you still got a little bit of mass, and that's right around the crankshaft. The smaller diameter will help acceleration. We make coil brackets and all that you bolt onto the block, and it drops the coil down so that it can work with this. But you know, that's, you know, with this flywheel, this is a stock diameter, and believe it or not, this one's a little heavier because of the center hub in it. But they'll both accelerate about the same, even though this one's a little bit lighter because this one's smaller. The weight has to move in a smaller circle, smaller circumference. Therefore, the engine will rev a little quicker. And because this one's got a little more mass to it, it'll actually help absorb harmonics. Harmonics is vibrations in engines when things are either out of balance or out of spec or something like that. Anyway, the engine vibrates and it sends these fine vibrations throughout the whole engine. And this flywheel, because it is so light on like stock crankshafts, sometimes they pick up, you know, a bottom end or a mid-range vibration just a little bit. These are really designed to go on our balanced shafts that we make, our stroker balanced shafts. But they work just fine on stock crankshafts. And but you know, one thing, that's what I like about these a lot, is they've got a little more mass to them and they help absorb some of those vibrations a little bit better than that one does. And plus this one, like I say, is adjustable timing. I don't know if you can see, you know, it's got marks up here. All you do, you put this flywheel on with a stock key, and whichever engine you get this for, we make these little flywheels for the clones, the flatheads, the predators, the Hemis, even some big block engines. But you put this on with a stock key and it's at stock timing, you just loosen the bolts, move the flywheel, and you can adjust the timing right there on it, on the dyno, or even at the track. That's the beauty of these little flywheels here with the adjustability to But like I say, we make them in a finned and a non-finned. That one right there will be good for good gasoline engines, and do this one for methanol engines. And believe it or not, these little cutout fins here will move a little bit of air. But this is basically the same flywheel, just without fins. It's a few ounces lighter because there's no fins on it, but you still get a little mass in there to help with them harmonics. And harmonics is detrimental to power. It doesn't really harm the engine a lot unless you got severe vibrations. But those fine vibrations, they slow down, the ball bearings. They create drag in bearings. They create drag here because it's like the engine's trying to kind of work against itself. That's why balancing an engine doesn't make more power. It just frees up power that the harmonics would be slowing down in other cases. The price of the Briggs flathead. I'm assuming you're talking about the Briggs flathead flywheels. The reason the flathead flywheels are more expensive is because most of them come with an adjustable center hub. We make... Ooh, magnets went together. We make an adjustable flywheel for the clone. It's basically the same thing as the 6619, just with an adjustable hub. And this is the part number 6618. This can go on a clone engine, fits right on. You don't have to have no coil modifications or anything. And the only problem with this one is because of the center hub, the little cup won't fit on. So this one's for electric start type engines, basically only. But yeah, the price of the flathead flywheels are because 95% of them are adjustable. I think we make one that's a 6620. I think it's 6620 that's non-adjustable, and those you have to do with keys and all. That's why the price is a little different on those, is because of the adjustability. And I just messed up. What I do? Okay. Yeah, okay. You're talking about flywheels. That's kind of what I thought. But Skeeta, we do make Vanguard flywheels. We make flywheels for any engine, just about almost any engine that's used in the karting, junior drag racing, mini bike, lawnmower world. Just go on our website and just type in Vanguard flywheel, and then it'll pull up every flywheel we make for the Vanguards. We've got, I want to say over or around 30 different flywheels that we make for different engines. A lot of them, just multiple flywheels for engines, but we make, if it's used, and it's a a popularly used engine, we make parts for it. But back to the inertia type thing, that's modified engines. You're going to be better off with one of these little small lighter weight flywheels, just because of the power curve's different. You get better acceleration, and because it makes power higher, you're going to have a better curve all the way through. I've done some dyno testing with some mild modified clones, with our 6619, versus the 6603s and 07s like this versus the 6602s, and overall power, the modifieds accelerated better, had a much better recovery rate. With the the lighter the flywheel was, the better off it was. And also the engine balancing plays a lot to do with these flywheels. Also, if you got a really good balanced engine like with our billet crankshafts, you're not going to go wrong with this. Is going to be your best option. I don't know why my kid's in there screaming, but the lighter the better when it comes to modified stuff. Now there is a point, just like with the stockers in modified stuff, that you can get a little too light. That's mainly like with the big blocks and stuff. Believe it or not, we make this flywheel, this little 3-horse flywheel, we make them for 390s. The mini bike guys wanted some, and there was big enough demand for them, so we made them. And my opinion, I haven't tested that a whole lot. I know a lot of people that have, but you don't want a super small flywheel like this on a 390, especially something with a lot of compression on it, because that still is a single cylinder engine. And that one cylinder has to do all the work. It has to do all the intake work, all the compression work, all the exhaust work. That one cylinder has to do it. And you get to the point where that flywheel is so light that it's not offering any inertia at all, and it can, at some point, slow the engine down. Like with V-twins, V6s, V8s, whenever one cylinder is compressing the fuel, one of these over here is already fired and is pushing the crankshaft down and helping it compress. So you can run high compression, little bitty small flywheels, or dampeners on the end, and get away with it. But in these engines, you're talking about a single cylinder engine that has to do all the work with one piston. And flywheels, you can get a little too light with some of the bigger engines, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that run these. We sell a lot of them for the 390s. A lot of people's happy with them. You still want that balance of having enough weight to not only keep the engine running, but keep it to keep the momentum of the engine, what I was trying to say, versus acceleration. That's a fine line there. And a lot of people, you got one side of the crowd, especially with the stock engines, that say, if you can make me an 8-pound flywheel, I'd run it. Then you got this other side that says we want them even lighter. That's why we like to meet in the middle. About a 3.5 to right at a 4-pound flywheel is right around where you want to be on the stock engines for inertia and for recovery time. But to kind of get into some of the more flywheels we make, let's see here. So I got the 6618 up here. The 6618 is also approved for AKRA. Some people use them. They take the cups and they'll modify the cups. At one time we thought about making modified cups for them, but when you cut them to go around the bolts, it makes them weaker, and sometimes they crack. But this flywheel, the 6618, is approved for AKRA. Don't know many people running them, but there again, this flywheel here weighs right at 4 pounds, but the weight is right here in the center. The outer mass is all still the same, so the extra weight you get is down here on the center. This is the flywheel I use on the dyno. Every engine that goes to the dyno has the exact same, or stock type engine, goes to the dyno with one of these flywheels on it. I got one that, because the adjustability, you don't have to pop it off to, change keys in it. You can take it to the dyno with 32 degrees timing, make you a few pulls, loosen the bolts, run the flywheel forward 1 degree at a time, 2 degrees, 4 degrees, whatever. It takes a few seconds, you loosen the bolts, you run it forward, you tighten it back down, you make another pull. If that works, you keep going or you back it up. You can do, 4 or 5, changes and pulls in the time it takes you to pop this off and put another key in it. Or if you're like me, I don't run keys, so I'd have to degree it in and everything. And what I do is, once I find the happy medium in one of the stock engines, I'll bring it back over to the work table. I see where my timing's at. And of course, I recheck it. I put this on with, my piston stop and my degree wheel, and I set my timing, exactly where I want it, off of my firing line, and mark the flywheel where it's at. Do all my changes. I come back. I put my piston stop in just to make sure that it is where it is. Pop this flywheel off, and then I set my 6619 at that timing, and it goes out the door. But these are great for dyno work. You're not going to find anything better. It's just a simple, you ain't got no coil brackets, no stuff to bolt to the block, nothing to, you ain't got to cut the block, grind on the block. You just put the flywheel on. You got to run a nut on it instead of a cup, but you're doing dyno work. So do your adjustments, get your timing set, come back, set your other flywheel exactly the same, it goes out the door. A whole lot quicker and a whole lot easier. That's what I use these for. But You know, we also make these ultralight flywheels in a PVL version. I didn't bring a coil with me tonight to show you what a PVL coil is, because some people don't know what a PVL coil is. You know, that's the coil that comes on the animal, the Briggs animal engine. It's a blue coil. You know, it's a 12,000 RPM coil. Those coils don't retard like stock coils do. That's something I got into on one of my other videos. That's where the advantage of the PVL comes in at, is it does not retard at high RPMs. But you have to have a special flywheel to run the PVL ignition. And we make a PVL version in the 6602. Actually, this is the 6600 is the part number for it, but it looks like the O2, but it's the 6600. We make it for the Clone, the non-Hemi, and the Hemi Predator. We got a 6600A for the animal, the stock stroke animal engines, and a 6600 SA for stroker animals. You know, that's just, I thought that was something cool to bring to show you that, you know, we do make PVL ultralight flywheels for the clones and other engines. Get behind on questions here. I'm kind of not in my right mind tonight with all this internet stuff. I didn't have time to sit down and prepare myself like I normally do. I sit around and build a fire and, you know, cross my legs and sing Kumbaya and do some meditating before I do this, and get a chance to do it tonight. Once I'm doing all the work and having no inertia to help, it's still a benefit to have the lightest flywheel on a mini drag bike since there's no momentum. Well, you know, Isaiah, you're kind of right there, but still, with a light flywheel with high compression engine, especially like I was talking about a big block now. When we're talking about, you know, the GX 200s or the 212s, yeah, the lightest flywheel you can get is good, because it doesn't have the type of running compression that a big block does. You know, you may have 12, 13 to 1 static compression, but, you know, the actual cylinder pressure, the running compression, is a lot more on a big block than it is on a 212. And the biggest thing you have to do, like with the big blocks, is idle them up really high to make them run right. You have to idle them up close to, you know, 2,800, 3,000 to make them idle. Because you have to get the engine spinning so fast that it creates its own inertia. You know, that's kind of one of those situations. You know, drag racing world is a little different than karting until you get into making the engine actually run. And with a big block with this right here, most people I've talked to that run them, you know, they like them and all, but they have to idle the engine up really high. Because if they idle them down where they normally do, you know, 22, 24, 100 or whatever, they tend to choke down sometimes. But that's just from what we've seen with the big blocks. Don, on these adjustable flywheels, like I said earlier, I kind of went through that a little fast, because like I say, I had a whole lot of stuff running through my mind for no reason. I don't know if y'all can see them there or not, but the marks up here on the flywheel, darn magnet, you got a negative line, and then you got a bunch of lines over to a positive. When the flywheel comes to you, it should be set on that very first negative line right there. And that very first negative line is going to be stock timing for that particular engine. Now this flywheel here has got a flathead hub in it, so that'll be stock timing for a Briggs 5-horse flathead. This flywheel has got it's for a clone engine. That'll be stock timing for the 196 clone. And when you loosen it up and move it, every line is 2 degrees. So if you go full line, that's, you know, stock timing, we'll say 24 degrees. Next line's 26, your next line's 28, and yada yada. But even though they come on the first line, it's still wise to set these things up to and check the timing on them, because, you know, the crankshafts are made in another location, Briggs, clone, you know, we're talking stock crankshafts here, and they're made on different machines, and they could be variants of time, especially with the clone and the Predator engines, because, you know, they're a Chinese made engine. Most of the Briggs crankshafts, I believe, are still made in America. But even though they could still be a little bit off, or we could be off. I mean, just because we make this flywheel don't mean it couldn't be a degree or so off. It's always wise to set it up on the negative line, you know, and go off your timing marks and set it with a degree wheel to make sure that that's where it's at, because you never want to assume anything in racing. You want to know for sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. Don't do no guesswork, because usually guesswork leaves power on the table. But once you make sure that first line is stock timing, then every line is 2 lines. Every line is 2 degrees. And if you go halfway in between, that's 1 degree. And yes, you can move it 1 degree, because there's no notches. You just loosen it up and, you know, you turn it. And if you want 1 degree, set it up halfway and you've got 1 degree. Get a few of these catches here. Sam, the coil gaps. Oh, my cat just jumped back up here, so I feel like it's going to be part 2 with Kitty Wars. But the coil on the clone with our flywheel, typically I set it at least 60 thousandths. Some of the plate engines, usually the smaller the plate, the higher gap I go, and the more timing I run in it. I usually set our timing in our unrestricted somewhere between 34 and 36, depending on what the engine likes, which is where this comes in handy on the dyno. I can make that change in a few seconds. But 34 to 36, and all my unrestricted engines go to the dyno with 65 thousandths coil gap. Typically the same on blue plates. And then when you get the purples, purples typically I set them, 36, 37 with probably a 70 thousandths coil gap, and the reds and greens, I set those at 38, and I try to get 70-ish thousandths on the coil gap. That's just what works best for me. But your results may vary. I know some people that run 40, 45 thousandths at 38 degrees, and that works for them. But one thing we tell you on any of our flywheels, I don't care if it's the small ones, the big ones, the ultralight ones, whatever, do not go below 30 thousandths on your coil gap for any reason. 2 reasons for that. Number one, these magnets in here are so strong that you get them down really close to the flywheel. There's a possibility it could overheat the coil and burn it up. That wasn't so much for the case on the flatheads, but with the clones, these coils, you get them too close, it could affect the way it operates. Number 2, because of Crankshaft Flex, these engines, especially at higher RPMs, 7,000 and above, the crankshaft, is flexing as the engine runs. I mean, it's not doing it that much, but if it's moving, 10 or 15 thousandths, and as that magnet comes by, it could be, pulling it down just a little bit. There's a chance that it could reach up there and hit it if it's below 30 thousandths. Chances are slim, but we've seen it happen, especially with the flatheads, because the flathead has such a long coil mount on it that it would actually flex a little bit. And not so much with the clones, but we just want you to keep it up a little bit because of the power that it puts through it. That paperwork should come with it that says that, minimum coil gap is 30,000. That's not telling you that's where we recommend the coil gap. That means that's as close as you can get. That's the minimum. But that's what I do on coil gaps. No, Chris, the ultralight flywheel is not AKRA legal. I say it again. It is not AKRA legal. There's a lot of people running them in AKRA. I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying that, but I just like to keep things fair. We did not make this for AKRA. We made this for modified engines. If people buy them and run them in AKRA, much I can do about that. But they're not AKRA legal, and I don't think they would be the best choice for AKRA because of what I was saying earlier about inertia and recovery rate. Yeah, that would recover really good, but I just don't think it's going to have enough stored energy to help you on top end. That's just from our testing. But no, it's not legal in AKRA, NKA, WKA, NWA, or any other series that I know of. Now, the Mars series, if I remember the rules right, the Mars series that runs out in the Midwest, I believe you can run any billet flywheel, any approved or any SFI style billet flywheel on their engines, whether it's a plate engine, stock engine, or whatever. And there's people running these on They like them, but they run on smaller tracks out there, so it's not as important about the top end inertia it is on these big tracks around here. Keith Meek, what's going on, my man? Ain't heard from you in a while. Guess it's not racing season, so he ain't winning races for me. Scotty, when it says it's already advanced, I guess it's a good thing I used this from my other show because everything's already circled for me. On all of our 6619s for the clone, the 6625s for the non-Hemi, the 6626 for the Hemi engine, the 66 O2s that's also available for the clone, the non-Predator, and the Hemi. All of these flywheels come with 8 degrees advance. And that's just the ones for the clones and the Predators. All of the bigger body flywheels like the 6619s and 25s, you'll see it right here on the flywheel. I know it's backwards because I'm using my phone tonight and that irritates the crap out of me, but it says right here on the flywheel, 32 degrees advanced timing. And what that means is this flywheel is already set 8 degrees above stock. Stock on a Honda engine is 24 degrees. That varies some on the clones, but a Honda GX200, which is what we build our parts off of, is 24 degrees. So this is 8 degrees above that. So when you put this on your engine, you use the same stock key that come with it, and it will be advanced 8 degrees. That's what that means on the flywheel right there. That's why we put it on there, you know, so folks would know that it's already advanced. We've been doing that since the first of, I think, 2014, I believe. It's been on there for a while, but that's what that means. I race on a 3/8 mile high bank paved. Somebody just pulled up at my house, so maybe I won't get robbed. Wide open all the time, Predator engine, D-stroke 208, Mod 2, 650 car, running the standard billet flywheel. Ooh, he typed a lot. This is hard to do with my cell phone because everything's so small. With a track that big, you're running a 208, 650 car. I don't know, Mod 2, that's a moderate cam. Good cam, but a moderate cam. That's probably one of the most used cams out there, believe it or not. That's a really good cam, Mod 2, especially with 1 to 3 rockers on it. But a track that big, that's kind of up in the air. You know, I'd either, you know, I don't know if you're using gas or methanol, but I'd either go with something like the 6607 here, which has got fins on it. Got a little weight, but a smaller flywheel, help accelerate better, or a standard, 208cc. That means you got clone crankshaft in it, 6619 flywheel. Either one of those would be a good choice. And like I say, this one, with it being smaller, you're going to get a little bit better recovery rate than actually this one does. But with the small flywheel, you get a little quicker acceleration. So either one of those would be my choice. I probably wouldn't go this light, but with it being a modified engine, it might work out good for you. It depends on just how much power, with that Mod 2 cam, if you're running standard 1-to-1 rockers on it, that cam's capable of making power, to 78, maybe 8,000 with the right carb setup and all that stuff on it. So yeah, that's kind of up in the air. I don't know who it is, babe. I just heard somebody. Oh Lord! 1 minute. I don't know who it is, though.
Well, I ain't going out there. If they can't knock on the door, then.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. I really don't.
Okay.
I'm kind of.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. The problem with live TV, huh? Just go out there, get the shotgun, walk out there, put your shell belt on, and walk out there and all Rambo style and see who it is. I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of your decision there. I'd go with a lighter flywheel. Probably lighter than the 6619, but either one would work good for you. Sorry for the interruption there. Like I say, this proves that I'm live. I'm not recording this, but 'cause I'm not sure who that is outside. Y'all can see the lights there behind me. So if they start shooting, you're going to get a good view of it. Can I use the 1-to-3 ratio rocker with 18 valve springs? I'd say no, even with a stock cam, because the 1-to-3 rockers are going to increase the lift of your. I'm sorry, that's just bothering me out there. The 1-to-3 rocker is going to increase the lift of your cam, 30%. And 18-pound spring is such a tall spring. It's a lot taller than the 10.8s or 26s. It's already 50% compressed when you put it in the engine, and you're going to run into some coil bind issues with the 18 pounds. I have ground the springs a little bit, because I put them in engines. I want to say it was one of the RTC6 heads off the Predator, which they have a little deeper spring pocket on it. You might get by with it there by running no shims or whatever. You may have to grind the spring a little bit, but when you put that 18-pound spring in it, that RTC6 head on the Predator is a little deeper than the clones and stuff, and you might get by with it there. But all in all, I'd probably say you can use a better spring. And they're still blowing the horn out there, y'all. I don't know who that is. I maybe have to go up and go out and see. So if I walk away for a minute, that's what it is. They keep blowing the horn. But in fact, let me go do that. Somebody just said go check. That's what I'm finna do. So see, there's the car light. So I'm not kidding. I'll be right back. Sorry. Sorry. People. Anyway, yeah, I know this is like the weirdest video I've ever done. I'm kind of rambling out of my place, and people out there knocking on my windows and doors out here while I'm trying to do this. At least it's entertaining, I hope, anyway. Yeah, Michael, like I say, the 18s and 1-to-3s, you're probably going to run the coil bind. You got a lot better spring options out there than the 18. I like the 22s that we sell. Part number DA1058. They're a slight bit taller than the 10.8s, but they're not as tall as the 18s, and they're a little better spring. I like those a lot better with the the stock cams, the CL2s, or the mod 2s with 1-to-3s. They work really, really good. All right, let me back up. Yeah, like Dakota there, like the green stripes. I probably wouldn't recommend those for 1-to-3s either, because they're just not enough spring. When you put those 1-to-3 rockers on it, not only is it going to increase the lift, but it increases the speed of the cam. It's going to lift the cam quicker. When that rocker arm goes down, it's going to do it with more force. So you're going to need a little better spring than the green stripes. I'd recommend the 20-pound springs that we got. It's a DJ1058, I believe it is, and I think those work a lot better. They're not too strong like the 26s or 36s, but they're strong enough to hold back, especially if you're using a mod 2 or a stock type cam. Now, Shannon, it wasn't UPS. It wasn't that. Trust me. I wish it was UPS. Mistaken identity. I got a guy that lives next door to me that does air conditioner work. And I probably shouldn't be saying this on here, but I don't think he was happy with what happened today, because as soon as I walked outside the door, he started cussing at me. So, you know, that's just a product of life, I guess. 3 horsepower flywheel on a 5 horsepower flathead. Actually, that's what these flywheels were originally made for. We may be making these for years, 10, 15 years, probably longer than 15 years. But these originally was made for the flatheads. That's the the standard part number for them was a flathead. And this is 6603. The 6603 is for a flathead. If you want it for a clone, you'll have to get a 6603-GX200 or a 6603-P for Predator. And but yeah, that's what they made for, and they will fit on a 5 horse, and we have coil brackets and all that would work with it. Travis, that was that was my thought after he started cussing at me, but it all worked out. It's all good, and nobody had to get cheated. But and now my cat's gonna mess with me again. This is turning out to be a disastrous video here, but at least y'all know I am live. But I see, I completely lost my train of thought here. Yeah, flywheel, fin designs. That's something else I want to talk about a little bit. Do you use feeler gauge to set the lash on a Hemi? Setting the lash typically depends on what type of engine I'm building. I rarely build stock class style engines with a Hemi because the rocker assembly is so heavy. You're building like the Mars type rules. So a lot of people use those. I prefer to use the RTC 6, 8, or 9 engine, but I typically set the valves on all the stocker type engines with what you call like the wiggle method. Actually, what I do is I loosen both the rockers up, whether it's on a clone, Predator, or whatever, for a stock style engine. CL2, CL3. Maybe a Mod 2 cam, but everything above that I do different. But for the stocker type engines, I loosen them up enough where I can wiggle them. There's a lot of clearance, and I put the plug in the engine, and I rotate it with the flywheel. And I feel the compression on the engine. I feel it go past the compression release. I know everything is sealed up good. And I start with the intake, and I tighten it down. I snug it up, and you turn the engine, and there's no compression on the engine. And I slowly loosen it up until I feel compression come back. And then I lock it down, check it again. If there's compression, I leave it alone because I know it's really close to 0. And then I go to the exhaust side and do the same. I'm turning the engine over, and I always stop. I stop the engine just after the little bump on the exhaust, right past the compression release on the exhaust side with the piston at the top. That's the best place to set them, in my opinion. That's where I set all of them. I start with the intake. I tighten it until I make sure there's compression, and I go to the exhaust. I turn the engine, I snug it up, the compression goes away, and as I'm turning, I loosen it up, turn it, loosen it up, turn it, loosen it up, until I feel the compression comes back, and I lock it down. That might be a future video there to show y'all how I do that, because I do it a little different than most anybody else I know does it. Most people does the push rod test. They tighten it down until they feel drag on the push rod, and I've done it that way too, and it both works out the same. You're still trying to get down to around close to 0 as you can get on stock type engines. Now with modifieds, some Mod 2s, depending on if I'm running ratio rockers or not, but 275, 308, cams and all them, I typically try to set those on what I call a loose 2. I use a feeler gauge and set them on to where the 2 slides through. I still feel a little bit of drag on it, but that's where I initially start them at. And then when I get to the dyno, I may make changes on it, but typically they anywhere from 2 to 3,000 when I get done with them anyway. But that's how I set them. Well, I've got a genuine celebrity in the house tonight. Mr. Joe himself. He is the owner-operator of the House of Cheater Clones in Timmonsville, South Carolina. He lives there with some other guy that's from Timmonsville that used to be a famous racer. Some Yarborough, Scarborough, Kale guy. Nobody knows about him. Everybody that in Timmonsville knows Joe. But anyway, Joe, since you're graced us with your presence tonight, does timing matter on short ovals versus long enduro tracks like Daytona? I don't know. I said them all the same. The enduro engines that I do have out there, I set them up basically the same. I do a little different stuff to the carburetor, but typically on timing, I usually don't go over 34 degrees because the enduro engines, they go through a beating. I mean, they get beat on like they owe you money or something. But really low RPMs coming out the corners to 3/4 or 1 mile long straightaways, they never back off. But I typically set all the timing the same on it. They tend to build a little more heat, but I use enduro type racing like that as my testing grounds to make my dirt track engines better. But you don't want to run as much timing on enduro. I will say that. There's some people on dirt that runs 36, 38 degrees and they're unrestricted engines, and not saying that power can't be found there, but you run into a lot of heat problems. And heat in these engines, because you're running gasoline, is a power killer once it gets to a certain degree. I like to keep engines below 425, 430 if possible. I've got some that run, 440, 450, but above 450, you're looking for trouble. The oil begins to start breaking down. Depending on what type of oil you're using, it might have been breaking down at 400. I don't know, but stuff starts moving around. The head starts trying to warp, and that's where head gasket failure comes in. But I tend to set all of them around the same. I hope that answered your question, Your Highness. I'm going to get a phone call tomorrow. Doug, far as carb size with rockers, Mod 2 and 1 to 3 rockers, little port work, you ain't going to go wrong with a 675. I mean, that's one of the the stock appearing carbs that we do. There's some people out there that's doing them 670, 680. I tend to stay around 675 because it leaves more material, less prone to crack, less prone to, cut through on the side. But, with 1 to 3 rockers, do a little port work, whether it's got stock valves, bigger valves, don't matter. With stock carburetors, stock appearing, the bigger the better. You're not going to get too big with a stock carburetor to outflow the valve or the cam. So that's how it breathes. That's its main mouthpiece. That's like what's going to be better for you to run a mile, breathing through your mouth or through your nose. The more air you can get in, the better you're going to do. So I'd say a 675. Bradley Bush, right now my back is cracking, man. When you get up to my age, of course I'm not old, but I am 40, but that's usually what's cracking on me is my back. Bradley, I get on here at the same time every 2 weeks. I mean, it's like Christmas. It's the same time every year. Every other Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And I will say that, you are in the Central Time Zone, so it'll be 7 your time. I'm on here. I was a few minutes late tonight because of technical difficulties and had somebody drive up in my yard, threaten to kill me and shoot me. But same time every week, buddy. But I'll be sure to send out a message next week to remind you. I'll send you a meme to remind you that my show is fixing to come on in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So I got 2 weeks to make a good meme for you. Oh, now people talking to each other on here. Great. Yeah, Lionel, the adjustable flywheel is, it is. I love them too. I run the adjustables, the small ones like this on a lot of my stock appearing engines. Well, actually, I run this one. This one's on several of the last stock appearing engines I built because they run it a couple of different tracks. In one track, they run methanol at, and another track, they run gasoline at, and they run a stock appearing carburetor. So the beauty of this is all they got to do is change the jets in the car to go from methanol to gas, loosen up these bolts, back the timing up a little bit for gasoline, go run the gas track. The next week, when they get ready to go run the methanol track, they just loosen the bolts up, run the timing back forward, change the jets, good to go. Where, one of these, you're going to have to, bust it loose, change the timing key, or either find a happy medium with your timing to where it's, a little high for gas and a little low for methanol, and kind of try to meet in the middle like that. But, why do that when you can get the timing exactly right from track to track? That's why these go on a lot of my modified engines, because some people run different tracks with different fuels. How many times on Street Outlaws, Bradley, somebody pulled up behind them and cussed at them and threatened to whoop their tail when they walk outside? Rarely. Okay, I've given you something tonight that Street Outlaws can't provide. Live action. Tell us how your flywheel is better than the new one with the terrible font choice on the logo that's machined in it. I have no idea what you're talking about. And we don't use fonts. Those are programs that are typed in. Something a little above your knowledge scale there, Mr. Bradley. I don't know what you're talking about there, buddy. William, I'm kind of glad you asked that, because I'm glad you typed that up there, Wesley, because we was fixing to have a conversation. We don't make that flywheel. That's another company. We don't make that flywheel. Anyway, back to William. Any word on reporting for 2017 AKRE rules are going to be close to what you were showing? Actually, I've done some work over Thanksgiving weekend while y'all were eating turkey and all. I was on the dyno Friday morning. I've done a couple of heads, and I compared it to I got a dyno engine that all I use it for is testing, flywheels, or I test carburetors, or I test headers. And this time I tested heads on it. It's just a real reliable engine. Not the strongest engine I got, but it's just real reliable. But I've done a couple of heads. I've done one exactly like I showed y'all the other week. It just cleaned it up. I didn't reshape the ports. I went in there, rounded off short turn radius, rounded off around the guides. Didn't touch the seat, didn't touch the guide. Didn't really do a really jam up job polishing it up or cleaning it up. It was all uniformed and smooth, but I didn't really go all out on it. And another head I went all out on it. I didn't, I hit the seat, I hit the guide. I was trying to see, what pattern was really going to work best. And believe it or not, the one that I just cleaned up was actually better throughout the whole curve. The one that I went a little more on had a couple of tenths more at, maybe 7,000. It was like a tenth and a half at 7,000 on the bottom end. It really wasn't as good. The one that I just kind of cleaned up, like I showed y'all a couple of weeks ago, actually performed better overall. It had, I made the pull from 3,400 to 7,000. And from 34 to about 55, 56, it was a little bit better. We're talking maybe a tenth and a half. I do multiple pulls on this stuff. I don't just go out there, make a pull, change a part, make a pull. Okay, it's better or it's not. No, I'll make 3, 4, 5 pulls, change to a part, make 3 or 4 or 5 pulls, make some adjustments, make 3, 4, 5 pulls, get some results, and I go back to the original setting with the original head and do 3 or 4 or 5 pulls to make sure the engine's still where it's at. That's the only way to really test stuff. Because if you just put a part on, make a pull, and then make an adjustment and the engine gets better or gets worse, it could be something in the engine falling off, could be the engine getting too hot, could be something, the dyno or something. But I make at least 3 pulls, change a part, make at least 3 pulls, do an adjustment, and then go back to the original setting, the original head, to back up the original pull to make sure that I'm still where I need to be. But anyway, after everything was said and done, the head that I cleaned up, and done to the specs like I was showing y'all, really done really good throughout the whole pull. And I after it was said and done, I got 7/10 out of the engine over what it was, and about between 200 and 300 more usable RPMs. So it helped a lot. Of course, now I did have a new. I don't want to go there, but it helped it a lot, and unfortunately, it might have helped them too much. And I'm afraid, once the really crafty builders and the really good DIYers, the people that I'm not saying just professional builders, the DIYers, the backyard builders. Once people really get to start working with this, I'm afraid it's going to really, really, we're going to find another weak link in the engine, unfortunately. But it helped a lot. And like I say, what I showed y'all the other week is exactly what I done, and it worked really good. It worked better throughout the whole pull. Like I say, I didn't hog it out, but I just reshaped around, the guide, and I hit the guide several times. It's something that you're probably not going to be able to do by hand, which I've done it by hand, because if you do it, you're going to hit the guide, you're going to hit the seat. I hit it several times, but I wasn't worried about it. I was just trying to see, if a different design would do it, and it hurt a little bit on the bottom, but it put it on top, which it did give it a good overall pull. I like something that, if it's going to change, it needs to change it from the bottom to the top, not just here. That's just how I do my engines. Is there a better plug than the 163910X? It's funny you say that, because I tested plugs while I was doing this also. When I got done finding my results, I've had some people send me some plugs. Actually, another manufacturer sent me some plugs. This person sent me some plugs. I get sent plugs to me all the time. And every time I get a plug, I don't know if it's just me and it's other people I talk to also, but plugs with an actual electrode, which the 3910X is got 4 prongs. You don't have to gap it. You don't have to index it. That's why we like them. But every time I get one with an actual electrode on it, every once in a while I actually see a little power gain, and it's through pretty much the whole pull, but it doesn't last. I'll do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pulls with jetting changes to see that, and I kind of start seeing, where I was smoothing the curve out, it kind of gets a little erratic sometimes. But even then, if it gets through the dyno and I see a little power, I send it to the racetrack with people, and I always send it with, a green plate or a purple plate, which those engines run really, really rich, and it's really hard to, with those kids, they sit around like under a caution or right around slow and the engine's loading up. That's where plugs foul. That's how you test good plugs from bad plugs. And I'd say probably 7, 8 out of 10 times the electrode plugs foul out a lot quicker than the 3910Xs do. It's because it's got, extra prongs. If it fouls out here, it can go over here. But there's plugs out there that I will say makes a little more power. And we talking tenths of a power, but they're just not as durable to me as the 3910X. I mean, I can sit here and tell you straight to your face, honestly, I've never fouled out a 3910X plug, ever. None of my personal engines, none of the engines that I help with people around here. Some of my customers have. I'm not going to say that, but me personally, I've never fouled one out. May have the next engine I do, I don't know. But I fouled out several of the electrode plugs. And that's why I send them to do the plate engines, because they run really rich. Now, unrestricted engines, they may run fine. But with the plate engines, I've seen them foul up a lot quicker. And that's why that's always sell the 3910X. Not saying it's the best power plug, but it's the best overall plug out here, I think. Wow, I mean, Joe's making his presence tonight, man. I feel privileged to have a genuine celebrity in the house, and he is bona fide celebrity. He's been in the winner's circle at Daytona, and not just with the Karts. He's actually stood in the winner's circle at Daytona 500 with, God, what's that guy's name up there? I can't think of his name now. The only thing in Timminsville is Joe. The rare earth magnets, that's just a name for it. They're made of a different alloy or whatever. The magnets in the flywheel, I ain't gonna get into too much of that, because that's, part of the secrets of our flywheel. But the they have a stronger they give out a stronger magnetism. They have a stronger pulse, and they have a stronger field on them. That, as the magnet field goes up or ever how it does, it just gives a stronger feel, and it charges the coil better, and it just makes it makes a more accurate fire, even with these crappy Chinese coils that we use over stock. And I've actually done some testing today on different coils and different stuff, seeing if a clone coil versus a Honda coil versus other coils, and I use a meter on it to see how much is actually coming through the spark plug, which is probably why I'm kind of scatterbrained tonight and not doing a lot of stuttering and losing my mind, because I had the absolute crap shocked out of me today. Me and another guy in the machine shop was in there looking at the meter, and somehow or another I moved it or took my ground off, and it shot arcs between, because our hands were holding something, holding the meter, looking at the meter, and it shocked us both, and it got us good. Them things put out a lot of power. I can vouch for that. But yeah, the rare earth magnet, like I say, that's just the name of them, but they just put out a better signal than stock style magnets that come in stock flywheels and stuff. 92 miles an hour on a mini bike. And people call us crazy for riding unlimiteds and stuff. Brother, you the man. All I can tell you, that's fast for a mini bike. That's fast for a cart. That's fast for a junior dragster. That's hauling the mail, brother. I hope you got a lot of our parts on there, man. Lionel, we have the capability of making a billet head, but if you keep up with some of the forums that I'm actually allowed on that I haven't been kicked off yet, I got in a discussion the other day with somebody about, why can't we make this stroke crankshaft or this stroke crankshaft for this engine, and why do we stop it, like the GX 200, why did we stop at 175,000 strokes instead of going to 2 or 250? Same thing with a billet head. It's, what I call product practicality. How practical is that part to the people that's using it? Are they going to be able to buy my part, buy a crankshaft, buy a rod, buy whatever, and somebody with very limited experience, are they going to be able to install it into an engine and make it work? That's the big picture. That's what's called, knowing the market. And looking at the market, yeah, we can make a 200, we can make a 250, but it's not going to be an easy install. It's going to be, you're going to have to do some cutting, some grinding, some welding along that block that the average person just may not. It ain't that they can't do, it's just they don't have the tools and the know-how to do it. And it's going to have to, you're going to have to send blocks out to get welded and cut. And we want to sell parts to people that, you started racing 6 months ago in the Predator class, and now you want to jump into the modified class, and you want to put a stroker into your GX 200 or your Predator engine, and we want to be able to sell you a kit that you can buy, that you can put in with very, 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 very minor altercations. Every once in a while on a clone block, you may have to clearance at the bottom of the cylinder just a little bit. Most of the Predator blocks, I haven't had to. Some of them I do, some of them I don't. Some I do just for my own satisfaction. But that's the billet heads for the GX 200 are basically the same. There's not a really big market out there for them. I mean, we can make them, and they did a $2,000 head that we might sell 5 in 5 years. Most people just don't have that kind of financing when it comes to these engines. And plus, you put a billet head on a GX 200, you're going to have to do an awful lot of bracing in that block, a lot of welding, a lot of gusset work, and then it still may blow apart on you and then ruin that $2,000 head. There's a market out there for it, but it's very small. The market for people like you, the mini bike guys, we love y'all's market. We really jumping into it a lot more than we used to. In fact, I've been talking about building me a mini bike, but now that I see you running 90-something miles an hour on it, I don't know if I got that much cojones. But, we